What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View, here to break down the MVP candidates for 2017. It's the big debate. Is it Tom Brady or is the MVP Todd Gurley? We're going to examine both players' seasons, Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, and the running back for the LA Rams, Todd Gurley. And I'm going to tell you who I believe should be named MVP and who I think they as in the NFL, will name MVP for the 2017 regular season. First off, let's start off by saying that both of these players have had fantastic seasons in their own right at separate positions. This year, the debate actually isn't between just the quarterback position. The NFL and the media have opened up the MVP to maybe be a running back this season. They were even looking at a wide receiver previous to Antonio Brown's injury. And the interesting part about this year's MVP is that there were a lot of injuries to high-profile players along the way. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, who is making a case for MVP, Carson Wentz, who is making a case for MVP, Antonio Brown, and now we're stuck with Tom Brady and Todd Gurley. Tom Brady, let's start off with him, who has been an MVP candidate ever since about week 2 when he stepped foot in New Orleans against the New Orleans Saints, and Todd Gurley, who is, as of late, really turned on the Jets, and because of his fantasy production and because of the LA Rams Cinderella story, has put his name in the hat to be named MVP this year. Starting off with Tom Brady. Tom Brady of the Patriots, like I said, has been one of the MVP candidates right alongside Carson Wentz all season long. And Tom Brady has had another fantastic season. Nothing really new here. The only new part about it is that he is 40 years of age. Tom Brady is playing some great football at 40 years old. He is 5th in completion percentage, 67%. 1st in passing yards. 1st in yards per game. 3rd in touchdowns. And he's 2nd in yards per attempt. Tom Brady is having another great season, and he's the only quarterback in the entire NFL that ranks in all of those stats at least in the top 5, if not the top 3, or leading. Tom Brady's touchdown percentage is 7th, interception percentage 3rd, and his passer rating is 2nd, only behind Alex Smith. His QBR is 4th, and Tom Brady overall is leading the number 1 team in the AFC. The New England Patriots have once again, most likely, locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC and will have home field advantage in that conference. That's huge in the voters' minds, that this team is one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the regular season. That plays a lot into whether a player is named MVP or not. Tom Brady has taken the Patriots offense to 2nd in yards and 4th overall in points per game. Tom Brady this year, more than any other, has had to carry the team a lot more so than in 2016, 2014, 2015. In the recent past, Tom Brady has not had to really carry this football team as much as a lot would really like to admit. A lot of Patriots fans and a lot of Tom Brady fans in particular really like to give a ton of credit to Tom Brady, but let's be honest, the Patriots have been a great team on both offense and defense for many years now, and I think that this season Tom Brady has carried the Patriots more so than any year in the past 5 years or so. Tom Brady is dealing with the 29th ranked defense in terms of yardage. Yes, they've made their way up the points per game, but if we remember the first 6 weeks of the NFL season, it was Tom Brady or bust for the Patriots. If they didn't have Tom Brady go over 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, they probably weren't going to win the game because they were giving up record numbers of yards, record numbers of points. And the only reason Tom Brady and the Patriots were surviving as a top team or even a competent above average team was due to Tom Brady's spectacular play early in the season. Now, what's been hurting as of late is Tom Brady has gone on a sort of an interception streak as of late. He's thrown an interception in the past 5 games. He hasn't done that since 2002. So Tom Brady is dealing on a little bit of a poor streak as of late in terms of his individual statistical play. But at the same time, he has victories over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tom Brady, not only with the 29th ranked defense, he's also been hit a lot more this season than in the recent past. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots really strive to be one of the best pass blocking and efficiency passing teams. And the thing that's been so remarkable about Tom Brady's season this season is that really they have relied a lot more on the deep pass more so than any team in the NFL. Tom Brady has completed a lot of plays down the field. Players like Brandon Cooks, Chris Hogan, Rob Gronkowski. Their offense in the past was very much known for dink and dunk, pass to the slot receiver, pass to the running backs, and they have done that throughout this season, don't get me wrong, but more so than years since I can really remember, since about 2007, Tom Brady has been throwing the ball down the field more so than any other year that I can remember in the past 10 years or so. Tom Brady, compared to some of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, has been sacked 33 times. Now, comparing that to some of the other top quarterbacks across the league, Drew Brees has only been sacked 18 times. Phillip Rivers has only been sacked 17 times. Ben Roethlisberger has only been sacked 21 times. Matt Ryan has only been sacked 23 times. Now, there are some players that are above him. Matt Stafford, who I would have considered an MVP candidate until the Lions got booted out of the playoffs, was sacked 45 times. That more says how bad the Lions are than Stafford. And Russell Wilson was sacked 40 times. So there are great quarterbacks that have been sacked more than Tom Brady. But just looking at his competition, even a guy like Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, only been sacked around 20 times. Carson Wentz, not sacked as many times as Tom Brady. Derek Carr has only been sacked 18 times despite having a bad season. So Tom Brady has been under a lot of duress this year, has been under more pressure than in the recent past. Now, I think the Patriots' offensive line has gotten better over the past few weeks and heading into the playoffs, but Tom Brady is dealing without Julian Edelman, who is his favorite target, and a lot of that has to do for the reason why Tom Brady and the Patriots have switched their offensive approach. They've gone more down the field because they can't rely on that slot receiver, that quick receiver to get open very quickly for Tom Brady to complete those routes. That's also why Tom Brady's being sacked more, a lot more coverage sacks this year, and they're having to rely a lot more in the passing game on a guy like Rob Gronkowski, who takes longer to get into his routes than a guy like Julian Edelman. This should be, if you're looking at the Tom Brady perspective, should be a lifetime achievement award for Tom Brady. He could have been the MVP last year. He could have been the MVP in 2014. He could have been the MVP in 2013. He could have been the MVP in 2012, 2011. Doesn't really matter what year you look at it. Tom Brady was in the running for MVP basically every single season he's played since about 2004 or 5. He's been in the running for the MVP award, and he only has 2. And for some people, it feels like it's time for Tom Brady to add to that resume and add another MVP because he's deserved it over these years of great play. And if you're adding that on top of the amazing season he's already had, then I think it's a no-brainer to go with Tom Brady in that situation. So Tom Brady, that is the case for him. Let me know what you guys think about the case for Tom Brady. Now, let's head over to the case for the other MVP candidate. That is Todd Gurley, the running back for the LA Rams. Todd Gurley of the LA Rams has put up some really, really fantastic numbers this season in the NFL, and he has put up on 279 attempts on the ground, 1,300 yards rushing. He has 4.7 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns on the ground. Through the air is where it gets even more impressive. 64 catches, 788 yards, 6 touchdowns. He leads the NFL in touchdowns total, touchdowns rushing, and he's even up there for touchdowns receiving. He has 19 touchdowns overall, and he may even end up with 20 if he scores in Week 17. He has led the Rams to the first best team in terms of points per game in the NFL on offense. The record in the NFC West, a tough division for Todd Gurley to win, considering nobody thought that they would win this division. They thought it was the Seattle Seahawks for the taking, but Todd Gurley has really been the driving force of this Cinderella story of the LA Rams, especially on offense. They are now 11-4 and first in the NFC West, looking to be the third team in the NFC. He is second in the NFL in yards from scrimmage, and like I said, first in touchdowns, which is absolutely huge for his case. He has a lot more than the next best player in terms of touchdowns. Todd Gurley's dominating in that facet of the game, and Todd Gurley is dominating in every facet of the game. Almost 5 yards per carry. That's pretty crazy, especially considering how many attempts he gets per game. He nears about 20 attempts per game-ish, and that's absolutely amazing to have almost 5 yards per carry on about 20 attempts per game on the ground. He does it through the air in the screen game. He does it through the air as a receiver out of the backfield. He's really developed that area of his game, and I really think that the thing about Todd Gurley that's amazing is that without Todd Gurley, I don't think the Rams offense would be nearly the same offense, and that can be said the same for Tom Brady, obviously, but for a running back to do that, that's very spectacular, especially considering the age we are right now in the NFL. This is a passing NFL. This is not a running back's NFL, but Todd Gurley has proven to be a major difference maker. He has proven to be the engine of this first best offense in the NFL under Sean McVay. And if you take Todd Gurley away, what do the Rams really have that's special? They have a pretty decent quarterback. He's still young. He makes mistakes. Their receivers are good. I wouldn't say that they're great. Their tight ends are average at best. Their offensive line is decent. Todd Gurley is their superstar. Todd Gurley is their engine. Todd Gurley is the guy that makes it run, and everything goes through Todd Gurley. The run game goes through Todd Gurley. As of late, especially the passing game has gone through Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley down the stretch has put up some absolutely astronomical numbers. Looking at the past 3 games he has played, he had 2 touchdowns and over 100 total yards against the Philadelphia Eagles in a high-scoring game, which they lost. But on the ground, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry in that game. Against the Seattle Seahawks, in a game that gave them the NFC West, he had 21 attempts, 152 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, and 28 receiving, as well as another touchdown receiving. He had 4 touchdowns. He almost had 200 total yards. Against the Tennessee Titans, he had ridiculous numbers. 10 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. He then on the ground had 22 attempts for 118 yards with a 5.4 yards per carry, which is not bad in that regard either. So Todd Gurley, I think what's going to stick in the voters' minds is how well Todd Gurley has played through the late portion of this season. Now, Todd Gurley has also had other great games against the 49ers earlier in the season. He had a great game against the Dallas Cowboys. He had a great game against Jacksonville, Arizona. He had another good game against Seattle, Tennessee, Philadelphia. But then also looking at Todd Gurley's season, he has had some clunkers. And for a running back to win the MVP, you need to have very consistent, spectacular numbers. Looking at this season, they opened up the year. Yeah, he had a touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts, but only 2.1 yards per carry. That's not very good. 19 attempts, 40 yards. Against the Redskins, 16 attempts, 88 yards, a touchdown. That's nothing special. Another touchdown through the air, so that's not a terrible game, but not really spectacular. Then you look at the Seattle, the first game they played, only 43 yards and then 7 through the air. And you also had games against the Giants, the Houston Texans, especially the Minnesota Vikings, where he only had 37 yards on the ground. He's had games this season where he's not played well. So the very same for Tom Brady. They've had some areas throughout the season where they haven't been at their absolute peak, their absolute prime, and their absolute best. Now, it just depends what the voters see. Do they see the late season success and the Cinderella story for Todd Gurley, or do they see the consistency and the ability to carry his team in the way that Tom Brady has this year? That's the big difference. If you're going to vote for a player because of the team success, You could argue Tom Brady, but at the same time, you could argue Todd Gurley because of the difference that he has made to this team from last year to this year. Or you could say that most of the credit deserves to go to Coach Sean McVay and hand him the Coach of the Year award. Or you could say maybe the most improved player in the league is Jared Goff. So it just depends the way that the voters see this argument. In my opinion, looking at this argument on paper, although Todd Gurley has had an amazing season, I think that Tom Brady will win the MVP. Now, am I saying that Tom Brady should win the MVP? That's a little bit different. I do think that other players could have won the MVP. I think the MVP probably would have went to Carson Wentz if he had not got hurt, even though you could argue Tom Brady even had better numbers at that point of the season. You probably would have still given the award to Carson Wentz if he finished the entire regular season. And you could still argue that Carson Wentz deserves the MVP. You could argue that Antonio Brown deserves the MVP. You could argue if the Seattle Seahawks make the playoffs that Russell Wilson deserves the MVP. So there are a lot of different arguments this year, but I think the two clear choices are Tom Brady and Todd Gurley. And when looking at this, I think ultimately the NFL and the voters will decide to go with Tom Brady. But that's not saying that I would choose Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady, yes, he's been spectacular all season long. And yes, he's had some rough parts. But again, it's the New England Patriots, and they just seem to get it done every single year. It's very tough for me to give the nod to Tom. But, you know, he's been amazing. And I think Todd Gurley would deserve it in his own right. Ultimately, it's a quarterback's award, and I think that's just where the NFL will end up going with the award, is with Tom Brady. So I think Tom Brady is going to end up being the one that is handed the MVP trophy for the 2017 regular season. Now we just have to see if Tom Brady and Todd Gurley end up playing in Super Bowl 52. We'll see in February. It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Thanks for joining me here on this MVP debate between Todd Gurley and Tom Brady. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more NFL content just like this. It's Mitch again. Peace out.